Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the HR and Payroll 2.0 podcast. I'm Pete Tiliakis, and as always, I'm joined by the legendary Julie Fernandez. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much. And today we have an exciting guest. We've been trying for a little while to get Julie on with us.
Yeah.
You want to introduce her?
Yes. I'm excited. We have a real HR professional here, a former HR executive. I would say an HR event road warrior. I thought I attended a lot of events, but Julie really, man, she takes it. A highly motivational thought leader, if you haven't heard her speak. And I would say, I'm going to call you the unofficial UKG mascot, Julie Devlin. It's so good to have you here.
I'll take that. I love UKG. I love HR. I've been called worse, Pete. So here we are.
Yeah.
You are you're our first mascot, Julie.
Yeah,
so.
I love that. I love mascots. So I'm happy to be that. Here I am.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of mascots, let's find out a little bit more about you, and especially how on earth did you get into payroll and why do you stay?
Yeah.
Payroll and HR,
Yeah.
I guess. We should be a little broader than payroll, workforce management, everything payroll.
All of the things. Okay, so when I'm on stage, I often ask my audiences, how many of you got into HR by accident? And I would say most of the time, 90% of the room raises their hand. I don't know that I got into HR by accident, but I got into HR because of my dad. So I graduated undergrad and I was an English major and I had no idea really what I wanted to do. I knew that I didn't want to teach high school or elementary school, but I didn't know what I was going to do. So my dad said, you should get a master's degree. I said, in what? He said, I don't know. What about human resources? I said, what's that? And the joke is we're still asking ourselves that question today.
Yep.
So right out of undergrad, I went right in to get my master's in HR, fell in love with HR, fell in love with the HR community, with, the psychology of work, and payroll too, by the way. I worked for many years. I started as an HR director when I was 23 years old. It's all about people who give you opportunities. And I really learned how to be an HR professional on the job, which I don't know that there's any better training. But I built an HR department from scratch. So.
And this from someone who actually did pursue a degree in HR. I mean, many folks are more accidental than that, right?
Yes. I not only did I pursue a degree, when I was 27, I started teaching HR in graduate school in the program that I graduated from, and I still teach today. McDaniel College.
So much for I don't want to be a teacher, huh?
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah, you kind of wrecked that one.
I did.
It pulls you in. It keeps you here. It's crazy. I was smiling all the way because I had a very similar career where I just kind of found my way here and then just was doing things at a very young age that looking back, I should have been terrified of. But they were, to your point, it was on the job training and I didn't know any better. And luckily the folks teaching me, the organizations I was learning from, set a groundwork that it was just fantastic. So I was very fortunate for that personally. But looking back on that, like, did you know to be scared at 23 that you're in charge of this stuff? Or did you not know any better? Yeah.
No, it's not that I don't know. I think partly the relationships that I've built at the time and the mentors that I had in my graduate program really helped me to learn how to build a program. I mean, I was doing software implementations of products that shall not be named that were that old, right? I was basically taking the entire HR department, of which there really wasn't one, and creating it from scratch. So literally every aspect of human resources, I was implementing, and I kept re-implementing for 17 years, scaling the organization from about 150 to about over 300. So
wow.
And working alongside payroll as well.
But how cool is that to get the blank slate too? To say, hey, like here you go, it's yours. Here's the keys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does a lot for your confidence. Because I was entrusted with this, and to say that I got there alone would not be accurate. I had a lot of folks who had worked at the organization for a long time who were there to help me and give their input and all of that. But learning on the job while going to graduate school, while also getting involved in local HR networks, really, really helped to propel
Yeah.
my career. So
There's so much in the community. There really is. It's one of the strongest communities, I think. I mean, I'm sure every industry probably would say that about their folks, but I feel like HR and payroll folks really look out for each other well.
100%. Yeah,
You know,
100%.
a common subject that pops up on here, and I know we all worry about it, is look, every industry, including HR and payroll, are not necessarily blustering with talent, right? Like, we weren't the first choice of where to go start your career for a lot of folks in this industry. Thankfully, most people come here and stay here. But like, Julie, like, what do we do to get more leaders on start coming this way and saying, hey, I want to try out a career down this path? Because finding your way here is great, but how do we get people to start here? That would be like, what's the answer?
Ooh,
You know?
that's, I mean, if I had that answer, we'd be living on an island somewhere. But I would say,
I mean, but you're in the universities too, right? Help and teach.
I
Yeah.
am.
Mr. Devlin needs to coach more youngsters, right?
Yeah. My dad, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, he said HR. I said, what's that? And he's,
Yeah.
at the time, you know what he said? Personnel.
Yeah, right? Yeah. That's what it was.
I just dated myself, but
Most people would have said paperwork, you know?
yeah, paper pushers. We did a lot of filing.
Yeah.
How do we get people excited? I think some of it starts with the way that we talk about ourselves as a profession.
Yeah.
And I speak about HR and payroll folks, right? I mean, we fight against the stereotype every single day, and we don't get a great rap in the media. HR, payroll, I mean, all of those professions, even management, right? All of those professions, it's never, oh, the awesome HR person. It's Catbert, the evil director of HR, right? It's Toby, the guy that nobody likes. It's
Fun police.
all of the pop culture stuff. So I think some of it starts with how do we talk about ourselves, and we need to highlight our wins. We need to highlight our wins. Like, what are, I often ask HR professionals, instead of what's going wrong, I said, ask what's going right. So I think it's more about a cultural thing regarding HR as a profession and payroll as a profession, and elevating conversations towards optimistic as we can. It's not easy, right? Because no one goes to HR or payroll just to say thank you.
Right, right.
Generally, it's with a problem, but it's also understanding and knowing your purpose. Why do you do what you do? What's the larger mission that you have? What are you doing to work towards larger mission of the organization?
I would agree. I think back. I mean, I think it's gotten better, but I think back, and I don't think that HR and payroll has been very good at positioning themselves in the organization and speaking up for themselves in a way that some other departments might do. And so you're right. It's almost like we just sort of fade into the background, do our job, nose down, get it done, and don't really try to take any credit or have a point of view. And I think now you have to have a point of view as a leader in HR and payroll. They're business leaders.
Isn't that because we get used to the idea too that we're handling PII and very personal, stories and very, very sketchy situations sometimes, and so we have that discretion built in to us.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean that we can't, sing our victories. It doesn't mean that we can't describe how awesome it is to help people. But I think we apply the discretion meter, maybe a little to the extreme.
It can be very lonely. I've seen many posts on LinkedIn regarding that, people talking about the loneliness in it. And I mean, the HR mental health piece, I do a presentation on optimism in HR and how we need to be more optimistic. And I found a couple of articles regarding, we made the news, and it was an article in the New York Times that says, here's why, like, human resources is making people miserable, right? Like, we're having trouble retaining our own. And I know payroll, I know that sometimes payroll and HR don't like to be lumped in together, but I look at these professions, and this is not to disparage any life and death caregiver, but I think we are in a caregiving profession. We are here to care for the business, yes. For the people, yes. Who cares for us? And oftentimes that answer is no one. So that's where I talk about the real importance of networking and making sure that you build a community, whether that's an online community or in person or both. I think it's so important.
Probably why the community is one that is so good at helping each other out. And, it's just, there's somebody understands my day to day.
Yeah.
And they have the same challenges as I do. And
yeah, but you're right, Julie, about talking about how we in HR have to deal with so much personal information that we're not allowed to divulge. And what do you do with that, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's difficult. It's difficult.
We have a risk management imperative too, right? Like that's a constant in payroll and HR's world, is this sort of risk avoidance for the business, for the for the decision making. And so I think that's hard, right? When you have to play nice with everyone, but at the same time, rules are rules, right? That'll get us all in a lot of trouble. So there's just that sort of burden, I guess. One of the things that I've been I've made it a point this year to write more about and really try and be a sounding board for is this idea that we're measuring ROI in the wrong way from HR and payroll. And what I mean by that is I feel like in the past, so much of it has been largely just this cost takeout exercise. How many people can we strip out of this? How little can we put into this and get as much out of it as we possibly can? And look, I understand that any digital investment is going to come with some expectation of improvement, right? Less people, less whatever to get the same results. But I think we're missing the point on the ROI that HR and payroll provides. And I'm hoping to try and shine a light on that to say, look, there's this risk avoidance element, right, that we need to talk about. There's this agility element. There's this effectiveness and then the insights and the things that can come from HR and payroll if you look beyond the cost part of this, right? And just looking at it purely as a cost center. So I've been writing a lot more about that. I've got a new ebook that's just come out with UKG where we talk about this in the context of manufacturers who need to think about global payroll and time. But what's your thought on that about just flipping the paradigm on ROI and what ROI actually is?
It's certainly not just about, the cost reduction piece anymore.
It can't be. It can't be.
See, the challenge, I think, is that it's very easy to look at that as being the thing, right?
Yeah.
We're money in, money out, money in, money out.
Yeah.
But to your point regarding risk avoidance, right? I mean, historically, you're looking at ROI as reducing headcount, saving dollars, et cetera. But we're also, we need to understand that the ROI is, even compliance, right? Making sure that what the fines that you're not having to pay, right?
Right, yeah.
And my goodness, I can talk about enhancing the employee experience and the overall, positive outcomes that come from that a million times over. But I think it's also really about the ROI of driving growth through insights that HR, payroll can provide through data, but not just historical insights, real-time insights.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And ROI is it's everywhere. It's not just about reducing headcount.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that when you can get that expertise that's in that HR and payroll teams and you can bring that together with those insights, that should be greater than just their data. It should be data you compare with other parts of the business, other parts of the, maybe even external data. That becomes the ability to start to see around the corner, maybe predict, and become very, very agile. And I think every business needs that today, regardless of what size you are. Look, one of the things I think is really interesting is, Julie, is you have an opportunity to be sort of in the heart of America, if you will, traveling around to many of these events. Yes, Canada, North America, let's just say. But you're out there like with your finger really on the pulse, I think. I talk to buyers all the time and practitioners. I go to a lot of events, but you go to considerably more. What's the pulse right now out there when it comes to just all of this? What are you hearing? What's the voice?
When you say all of this,
everything going on in HCM and the world and goodness, all that we have to juggle as HR leaders.
Is it even a podcast if we don't talk about AI?
Oh, and that too. Yeah, we haven't even got there yet.
Because, you say what's going on out there. I think that right now practitioners are overwhelmed. And that's not anything new, but it's overwhelmed to an extent that maybe we haven't seen before. The pressures on HR and payroll are also increasing. Pressures to provide the accurate data, to be able to provide executives and C-level folks with the insights that they need in order to, ensure that the bottom line is where it needs to be, that productivity is where it needs to be, that we're keeping up with others in our field or competitors in our field.
Yeah. Right.
So I feel the pulse that I feel is that There's a quote that I always turn to, and I'd love to know your opinions on this.
Yeah, please.
And it's something that was said in 2018 by Justin Trudeau. He said, "The pace of change has never been this fast, and it's never going to be this slow again."
Yep.
And that was 2018. Think about how fast change is happening now and all of the stressors that are on HR and payroll departments. It's imperative that we get a handle on that because change is not going to slow down.
And they're already behind.
Unfortunately. Yeah. And I can say that accurately because I lived that life, right? I lived that life when I was a practitioner. There's never one day in my 17 years where I felt like I was caught up ever.
Yeah,
right?
Same.
So we need to get comfortable in that ambiguity and recognize that our work is never done. Our work is not just, I can just check a box and say it's done.
Yeah. Transformation's iterative, right? It's not a destination. You've got to be, it's like a diet in a lot of ways. You've got to be living this lifestyle of constant improvement, I think, especially in what we're doing. To Julie's point with the PII and all the impacts to people's careers and people's pay, all of this has serious ramifications. And so, HR and payroll have never had a job more. And by the way, they're trying to pull a rabbit out of the hat every week when it comes to finding talent and, meeting objectives. And by the way, do AI in there sometime between all that, right? So, these pressures and these mandates, I think, are just getting more and more aggressive. But meanwhile, HR doesn't actually have the infrastructure to pull it off.
That's fair too. The infrastructure is a big piece. And when it comes to things like not only AI, but other areas of work, we're having to, we in HR, payroll, other professions similar, are having to upskill ourselves before we can upskill and reskill others on these things.
Yeah.
And the challenge is that I don't think organizations on a macro level are doing all that could be done in order to help the helpers.
Yeah, agreed.
So, there's a lot to unpack here, but one of the things, Julie and Pete, that I've been also having conversations with HR and payroll professionals about when it comes to things like AI, when it comes to things like what's going on in the world of compliance or even federal changes, I'd say we can no longer sit back and wait for other people to teach us about these things.
Yes. Yeah.
We have to take some of the onus upon ourselves to recognize that we have to upskill, reskill ourselves. Because even if we did rely on our employer or others to teach us, it's not going to be quick enough.
Yeah, it'll be too late.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a billion things out there where you can learn about all of these new things, right? AI, et cetera, for free.
This is a big differentiator among the generations too, right? So we had our ways that we had to go through getting an education or getting skilled in some of these things. And now just information flows so differently that it's there for the taking from the curious. And so, we will have generations that don't have the same credentials, that don't have the same experience, that don't have the same years in position, and yet, if they're curious or more curious and more active about seeking out the information, it's not unfeasible that they develop more skills more quickly, right?
Yeah, the workforce of the future isn't going to know anything different. They're not going to know. They're not going to know a world without AI and AI agents and all of that.
I think learn and unlearn is a natural reaction for them. Right. And we just did a show where we talked about failing fast. I think everyone has to have a software development sort of mindset now. And I think HR needs it more than anyone. You need to start experimenting and failing fast and finding what works and what doesn't and iterating quickly. Right. I think you're going to fall further and further behind. So, Julie, one of the things I was just curious about is like, obviously kind of the media and certainly influencers, right, will talking heads, right, have all these speaking points and things that we're scaring everybody with or maybe not. What's the real, going back to that pulse, like what's the media not talking about that we should know about right now with HR? Anything? What are we as influencers not missing? What are we missing? An analyst. I don't consider myself an influencer.
One of the things that I've been leaning into, and I don't know if it's so much media, right? But is the pace of our conversations and how quickly the conversation changes before we even have time to look into whatever thing we were focused on so heavily for 7 days or 5 days, right?
You mean our ADD is kicking in?
Oh boy, yeah. It's like
constantly.
It's like this constant cycle of let's focus on this. I mean, think about something like the 4-day work week, right?
Yeah.
For a long time, that was it. That was the conversation, right? And where's that gone? And then think about, you think about all of the different trends. It's almost like, in HR, payroll, and related professions, we've like leaned it in the meme culture, right? Like, it's like, okay, we're going to focus on this thing this week and it's going to be the talk of the town. And then, oh, nope, just kidding. This week is going to be this thing. But we never really fix or dive into. Does that make sense?
Right.
I think it's a big part of the formula that Pete and I have tried bringing forth in this podcast, which is like keeping up with all this stuff that's happening and the newness and the innovations is one thing. Then keeping up with, is anybody using this stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what's the reality is another thing. And sometimes they're getting more and more far apart sometimes.
Let me maybe really drop this question in the middle, because I was going to ask you this, Julie, is that, look, there's all this investment. There's all these geniuses. There's all these experts now. We've got all this stuff, right? And like, why does HR still suck? If we have all this, why does it still suck? We did a podcast on this about why, after 128 years, my Biltmore experience, why were they battling the same problems we're battling today? But why does it still suck?
I think that's a loaded question. I have to push back a little bit. I think HR is awesome. There are elements of HR that I think are challenging for people. I think, again, we can look at this from a macro level, and then we can ask people to look at themselves. How were your views of work shaped? Who helped to shape your views of work? What work ethic wise? There are different ways now to get to the same outcome. And the example that I give, that I use again on stage sometimes, is I'll ask my audience to draw a star. Just draw a star. And then at the end of the presentation, I'll say, okay, how did you draw your star, right? Did you go left side to right side? Did you go right side to left side, right? And point is, all of us get to the same outcome. We all have that star. It's just we got there different ways.
Different lenses,
So we all think, I think, we have to open our minds to new ways of working, and also to how technology fits into that equation, because we get very comfortable. Part of the reason it sucks is because we get so comfortable set in our ways, but those ways aren't necessarily the most impactful or resourceful or easiest ways to actually get to the outcome we need. And we don't have time to learn all the new things. I get that, right?
Yeah, agreed. And the change we talked about coming so fast, right? It's hard.
What works today is most likely not going to work tomorrow. So if you're not looking for the way to do something tomorrow, you probably are not very open.
100%. Yeah. And listen, this is easier said than done. I am 100% guilty of this. I have had to get used to working in the organization where I worked for 17 plus years. I was able to control a lot more things than I'm able to control today in working, in a multinational organization, right? And I've had to get used to kind of letting go of old ways of working. And I've had to also get used to not being so siloed, right?
Yeah.
I think HR and payroll, we need to get out of the mentality of it's just us alone on an island.
Right.
We need to have conversations with other people in the organization, conversations with people that maybe you wouldn't even think that you should have a conversation with.
Yeah.
So bringing people along the journey can help make it suck a little bit less, maybe.
Yeah, totally. And by the way, what I meant was really just the HR experience. Not so much, I'm not talking about the department or the people. Just why does HR suck for everybody? You know what I mean? It's not fun for HR. It's not fun for the other side. It's just got to be better. But no, I completely agree with you. And what I've been saying, and I think payroll probably needs to hear this more than HR, is they need to lead. They can't continue to be led. They're business leaders who have tremendous expertise, tremendous data. And both of those things are very powerful, along with their emotional intelligence that I think is going to shine. But they've got to step up and have a point of view. And I think that's possible now, right? People are listening. People will listen. So I love that. So Julie, I just want to kind of pivot a little bit and talk a bit about just kind of the future, right? I mean, again, you're out there with everyone. You're kind of seeing what's going on. But we only see about 25%. I think the SHRM said only about a quarter of organizations are actually able to use AI right now in their businesses. What are you hearing? Are you finding that that's about the same as what you're seeing, or is it more? Is it less? Is there a scare? Are they scared? Are they excited?
Yeah, no, I love that you asked that question because I actually did a little bit of research on this. I have the good fortune again of speaking at conferences, and I did some polling at a more recent conference that I went to, and it created a word cloud. And the question I asked was, "What is the first word that you think of when it comes to AI at work?" And that word cloud curated the words. Obviously, the bigger words are the ones that you're able to really see. There were 3 words that came to the top. It was efficiency, productivity, and the third word was scary.
Scary. Yeah.
Wow.
What I'm seeing now with all of these tools is this hope. It's this cautious optimism
Yep.
that these are
Same.
going to be the future. It's going to be the thing, but we're not quite there yet. And I think part of that is because people don't understand what it can do for them. What
Or
good
the trust with it.
or trust, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trust is the basis of everything, right? It's not just implementing these technologies. It's understanding the strategic value of implementing them, and then it's not missing out on the opportunity for your organization to be able to adapt quickly by utilizing these things, by stay compliant, right? To empower the workforce to have a more competitive edge in your organization. So
Yep.
it's getting out of our own way a little bit. And also prioritization. This is never going to be lift and shift and just put it in, right?
Hopefully not.
No.
Can't be. Yeah.
Continuous process of improvement.
Yes.
So recognizing that our work here is never done, but controlling the controllables is where we have to go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish I had all the answers.
Agreed. I think what we're finding here too is that those that are coming on and having a lot of success with it are the most curious. That's been very, very common, Julie. I don't know if you've noticed about the folks that we've had talk about AI and the successes. They tend to be very curious, and they tend to be in organizations that allow that or promote that. And I think that that's fantastic. But not everybody's in that organization. Some are still in an organization that's not in the cloud or hasn't, accepted that HR needs an investment. So
if it's possible to combine skepticism with optimism,
yeah,
that also feels like, you have to scrutinize so that you can look for something that will go, wow, there you go. There's my mountain for today. I'm moving this mountain.
I think the wins can compound too. Like I think about, again, going back to my ebook, right? We talk a lot about the power of WFM and payroll coming together, right? I don't think a lot of people realize how heavy of a lift it is for payroll when time is highly complicated and it's delayed and the scheduling is a mess. That compounds over to payroll, right? And then payroll is late doing what they do, and there's errors and there's misses. But you think about, hey, if we can transform payroll, but if we don't transform WFM or we don't transform HCM or vice versa in any of those mixes, what happens then? Something gets pulled along and just drug along behind the good stuff, right? And so it's nice to see that some of these things are starting to compound in a way that says, if we make an investment here, it's going to ripple towards other parts of the business if they're integrated. I love that.
Absolutely.
Everybody benefits, right?
When you have a unified and modernized workforce when it comes to time and payroll, and they're no longer these back office tasks, they're more like strategic arms of the organization. That's when
COEs.
Yes. That's when you can really, that's when productivity is seen. And that's the other thing, right? It's a journey. You're not going to see it immediately, right? But at least taking that first step. We spend a lot of time in HR and payroll wishing and not doing. I wish I could, get my WFM time and pay, all together. I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. But we never take that first step. I think taking that first step is key. Even if that step is a tiny, tiny one. Small change will lead to big results.
I think one of the barriers there with respect to bringing time into the fold is that it's a little bit like the orphan process in the organization. Yeah. So if you don't own it, and it's owned, especially with the frontline workforce, it's owned in operations and across locations, and it's owned by someone else, it's very difficult to impact it and to give it that direction that would make it more productive and more efficient. And so, it has to stop, it has to be recognized that there's a lot of gain to be had there, to bring that to the forefront and say, okay, now we need to get another stakeholder on board, because we all got skin in the game here, and we really need to, be able to drive some efficiencies.
Along that lines, I know the strategic workforce management sort of theme is coming up, particularly in the enterprise firms. Are you seeing that as well, Julie? Is that becoming more apparent?
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
You're even seeing some of the financial planning start to come closer together with that, right? Planning and analysis even coming together with strategic workforce planning.
Absolutely. I mean, business continuity is dependent upon that. Right. I mean, making sure that organizations can build a workforce that can really, change with market conditions and different disruptions. I mean, it's definitely, I'm definitely seeing that as well.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Julie F., you and I, we've got plans to talk the WFM COE coming up, but that's something that I'm very intrigued by. I read a bit about that in Deloitte's, some of their reports last year or early this year, and I got really, really interested in that. So I think we have one of a UKG client actually coming on to talk about that with us, ironically. And I'm excited about that because I think there are more enterprises that are starting to invest in that, right? And starting to say, hey, workforce management is a big lift for us. We've got a leader coming on soon who's doing some multiple $1 million savings work around just the leakage and failures of time for a 500,000 employee organization. It's a huge, huge thing. So it just seems to be very. It gets me excited as a payroll person in the past because that's a pain, right? Is the heavy lift often in payroll for some companies, your manufacturers, your logistic companies. It's that WFM lift. It's getting time to build to gross, right? The source to gross ready for payroll to actually do their business. So
I'm finding as many as 1 in 4 engagements or conversations about how do I drive efficiency or what's on my hot list, right, of things to tackle has an element of workforce management in it, usually with payroll or with something else, global delivery model, shared services. Yeah.
Are you saying workforce management's having its moment? No.
It is. And payroll's gonna, just kind of bringing this back together. Payroll's the one that's actually benefiting from it. I'm saying that an investment for one is actually a trickle down investment probably for others. If HR has better core HR data, payroll is going to have better results. Same thing with timeliness for payroll. If time is in there on time, payroll can do their thing. And we haven't even talked about the experience for the manager who's chasing people to get time in. I mean, all those efficiency gains, I think is there's a win to be had for everybody when someone gets the investment, right? Whether it's directly to payroll or not.
How can you not have a moment when compliance just starts oozing out of every corner, right? And it's like, I think I'm having a moment now.
Yeah. What would you say to a company right now who is an HR leader, maybe who is in a state where they're a little paralyzed, right? They know they need to do something, haven't done something. Maybe they aren't able to show that ROI well. What would be your sort of advice to them? Step one, what would you tell them to do?
Step one, I think, is there's strength in numbers, right? To get other people involved in the conversations, to get other people, to get other perspectives. Step two is, can the question, and I'll pose this to you, can we even get there if we don't have a culture of change?
Right.
If we don't have a culture that accepts change, because it's very easy for me to say, this is what HR should do. But oftentimes HR, it's like you're preaching to the choir. Or with payroll, you're preaching to the choir. Oh, we've tried to do this. We tried to do this. We tried to do this. So I think it's more about the prioritization and also changing your approach. When you're trying to make a change or you're trying to improve processes, it's bringing those other folks on board and giving them the insight through data to understand the why behind the ask. Not just this is what we have to do. This is what we have to do. Here are the numbers that show why we have to do it. This is the impact when we actually implement it.
Right.
Here are the roadblocks along the way. I say leaders should begin with the end in mind. If you begin with the end in mind, no matter what process you move through, what you're able to then do is not sabotage yourself along the way through the transformation by keeping yourself away from what that end state looks like, by making decisions that don't bring you towards that end state. So it's about a strategy and a vision for the future. And it can be a bold vision for the future as well. But again, I can't go at it alone.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I feel like there's a preparation message there too, because the truth of the matter is change is difficult. And a lot of times it comes to companies and to organizations as a slap in the face. A leader leaves, a new one comes in, bam, like all the things that you couldn't talk about before are now someone else is taking that ball and running downfield with it, right? And so even if now isn't your moment, right, to shine, the more you can prepare, the better shape you're in, because the slap in the face, management by slap in the face, change by slap in the face is happening more than ever today.
Yeah, you don't want to get drug along. You want to be leading it, instead of being...
it could be a good slip, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody's waking these people up.
No, but that tracks really well with what we just saw from the Payroll Profession Confidence Index that I published, is that vision and strategy has a significant path to success versus those that don't. And it has a significant correlation to maturity and ROI outcomes. So you're absolutely right. I think just knowing what you want to be when you grow up and having some sort of a line in the sand and then having a point of view around that is huge. And as we've learned from a few of our executives that have come on, sometimes just taking one or two data points to business leaders that you work with and showing the business impact of what you're doing or what you're suggesting removes the emotion and creates a momentum. And I think that's where, you got to get confidence in your data. And it kind of goes back to many of the things we talked about here. So, yeah.
Certainly.
Good stuff.
Before we move on, I just thought of something else, actually going back to your question originally, or one of them regarding why does HR suck so bad? Let me explain. Let me tell you where my mind went.
The HR experience. Why does the HR experience?
But no, here's partly why too, because there are organizations where with HR and payroll that they still don't have their roles clearly defined. And the job duties that people are being assigned have nothing to do with HR and payroll. I'll give you an example. I had a conversation with someone in some state, don't ask me where, and I had asked, I was like, what is the least HR part of your HR job? And this person told me, well, it's my responsibility when our valet person goes on lunch break, I have to fill in for the valet driver.
Oh, stop it.
So I hesitate to say that HR and people aren't party planners, because I know there are people that love to do it. So if you love to do it, that's one thing. But the other thing is, for those executives out there that are listening, HR and payroll are not your party planners. And
yes.
Want to be. So ensuring that their roles and responsibilities are clearly defined and that they are strategic and they're not only administrative, I think is another way to get the profession a little bit more back on track.
Agreed. HR and payroll leaders are business leaders who happen to sit in HR and payroll, and they should be respected and treated as such, I think. And there's no reason why. They should be party planning, right? Get a party planner for that.
Picking up the dry cleaning.
I can't even tell stories. The stories that I have about, least HR.
That's why we've got to shake the personnel and the bookkeeping connotations. And I think there's a lot of work being done around the world for that. I mean, we've had some examples on here, but we do. And look, I again, just shamelessly plug in the Payroll Profession Confidence Index. This is one of the key things that we ask in there is about the correlation between invested leaders and investments, right? I mean, it's one thing to put money on the table. It's another thing to actually care culturally. And when you see the invested leaders, the impacts to their other outcomes, it's totally different. And so, we need leaders to look past these personnel bookkeeping connotations and see payroll and HR for what they really are, and that is strategic enablers and value organizations. So, I love it. So, Julie, look, we could talk to you all day. I know you're very busy. Where are folks going to see you next? Where are you headed over the next couple of months?
I'll be at HR Tech.
Okay.
Looking forward.
All right.
Looking forward to that. I'll be
same.
I'll be speaking on a lot of conferences. Mississippi, SHRM, New Jersey, Garden State,
Aspire,
SHRM,
I'm sure.
Aspire, UKG, Aspire. Yeah.
All right.
I'd love for folks to, follow me on LinkedIn. If you'd like to, you can just search my name. Yeah, I'm pretty active on there. And I like to just bring up different conversations about these topics and challenge people and really challenge myself too. To understand where we are, where are we going, and how can we help each other along the way. So I think that's so important that we lean on each other.
Yeah, this is a strong community. And I think folks like yourself and others who are out there really just trying to champion that positivity, champion the change, and help people. That's what we do here, right? We're really just trying to help people, understand how to think about these things, not what to think, and just see how to, how others are handling it and digesting it. So we definitely appreciate you coming on. I want to ask you real quick before you go about the podcast. What can we expect from the podcast?
So I host UKG's podcast, the People Purpose Podcast, and
that's right.
You can find that anywhere you get your podcasts. I just talk very candidly about the world of work, all different topics. There are plenty of legacy episodes that you could listen to regarding all sorts of topics. I'll be recording an episode at HR Tech. And then in the months ahead, you can expect some compelling guests. Let's just put it that way. So
I love it. So a little pause right now, and then you'll be back, I guess.
Yeah, we're coming back.
Yes.
Coming back.
All right. I love it. Well, Julie, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us. All the best to you, and you're always welcome to come back. And we will try to catch up, out on the trail there in the event season here. And go check out the new ebook I have with UKG. It's on the manufacturing sector specifically, but very focused on, and I think applicable to anyone who's in a gnarly workforce management payroll sort of environment, the benefits of that. So let me know what you think about that. And as always, we'll be back very soon with more content. So appreciate everyone for sticking and staying.